The first thing we need to do to address the problem of denial when starting treatment is to get clear about what it is that we're even treating. And that starts with how we even talk about it. Think about how many words there are that we use to refer to the topic. Substance use, substance misuse, substance abuse, addiction, chemical dependency. See what I mean? The first thing we have to do is to get clear about the definition of all these terms. So let's start the discussion by saying most people have a general awareness that substance use occurs on a spectrum that ranges from mild to severe. So terms like social use, substance abuse, experimental use, recreational use, these would all be found down on the mild end of the spectrum. The implication here is that the user has control over the use. They either don't experience bad things happening from the substance use, or if bad things do happen, they're able to change their behavior and prevent the bad things from continuing to happen. We're going to get into further detail about defining social or recreational use a little later in the section on marijuana denial. That gives you a little hint about where we might be going there. At the other end of the spectrum is where we see words like drug addiction, alcoholism, or chemical dependency. You could say that the implication down on this end is that the user has lost control. Bad things happen, and for some reason they're not able to change the behavior, and the bad things continue to happen. So we've got this spectrum that goes from mild to severe. But what really adds to the confusion is that there's a second spectrum that ranges from the medical or professional terminology on one end and the general public or the layperson's terminology on the other end. Put these two together and it creates what I call a matrix of confusion. Because what happens is we've got all these terms floating around and this sort of cross-pollination occurs. People mix and match all these terms, and like a bad game of telephone, everybody comes up with their own definitions, and they lump all this together into one default word, which is problem. What does it mean to have a problem? And that can be the source of a lot of trouble in treatment because there's a really good chance that your kid's definition, your definition, and the clinical team's definition of what it means to have a problem are all different. And that's why it's so important that we start off with just the fundamental point of making sure we're all clear about exactly what it is that we're treating. Right off the bat, this can be a good first step in unraveling some of the typical denial we see at the beginning of treatment.